VR is full of shooter games. Every single VR headset and its controllers has that layout that feels just right for using weapons in virtual reality. And with that, VR has some of the best shooter games available. So here are 10 of my favourite VR shooter titles that I think you need to try out. So the first game I want to talk to you about today is a bit of a 2-for-1. It is Contractors VR and Contractors VR Showdown. Now, if you've been around with this channel for quite some time, you will know that Contractors VR is my favourite VR game of all time, and Contractors VR Showdown is just as good. Now, the reason I've done these as kind of a 2-for-1 is because they're two separate games that you have to pay for separately, but they are also priced at $14.99, so if you were to buy both of them together, it's almost as if you were buying one full VR game, which is around £30. And yet something that I must say about Contractors Showdown is that it is a super difficult game, and currently you can only play in trios, but it is still a really good experience and definitely worth the money. And if you're into mods in your VR games, Contractors VR is absolutely perfect for this. Contractors VR is actually the game that I use to show my Call of Duty Zombies in VR games, so yeah, I would highly recommend giving it a go. Alright, next up on my list is Pavlov. And basically, unless you've been living underneath a rock, you probably know what Pavlov is, but it is a sensational multiplayer shooter with a variety of different game modes and some really good gunplay. Now, what's also really good about Pavlov is the fact that this also supports mods, but I think the mods on Pavlov are PC only. I don't actually have Pavlov Shack on standalone. But regardless, even without mods, this is probably one of the best games that you can play. Okay, so up next we have Breaches, and Breaches is possibly the closest thing that we have to Rainbow Six Siege in virtual reality. Also taking different elements from games such as CSGO, like the buying function at the start of a round, Breaches is most definitely not for the faint-hearted. As in order to win games, you need to be using constant teamwork, coming up with different strategies that caters to each individual round. This is most definitely one of the games that I should have tried more, in my opinion. But yeah, sensational game, super difficult. And the fourth game I'm going to be talking about today is Ghosts of Tabor. Now, this was probably one of the biggest VR releases of 2023, and when playing the game, it is easy to see why. Inspired by games such as DayZ, Escape from Tarkov, and Arma, the overall objective of Ghosts of Tabor is to scavenge, complete scenarios, and, well, in general, survive. Ghosts of Tabor really goes into depth with the features that the game has, even going as far as to include gun maintenance. I'm actually not 100% sure whether that's a feature now, or it's an upcoming feature, but I know the creator has said that he would very much like to include weapon maintenance, and I think that would be super cool if it did. Maybe a little tedious, but oh well. Ghost of Tabor, VR Game of the Year last year. Probably, maybe, I don't know. Up next we have got Onward, an immersive tactical VR shooter where you can play competitive PvP, co-op PvE, and also solo game modes. This game comes with realistic weaponry and combat mechanics that will push your survival and combat skills to their limit, or that's what the Steam description says anyway. From what I've seen of Onward, the game looks sensational. There's a lot of different game modes for you to try out, so if you don't like one of them, then you're bound to like the other one. Something that really interests me is the fact that you can do 4-player co-op missions, which is like something straight out of Call of Duty World at War, one of my favourite games of all time. And something I didn't know until I was starting to write this video was the fact that Onward is nearly 10 years old, and because of that, Onward is most probably one of the most refined VR shooters available to this day. And for game number 6, we are going to be talking about Veil VR. Now, this was possibly one of the most anticipated games of last year because it was coming out onto Quest headsets. And the reason they didn't release it onto Quest headsets like they released it onto PC VR in 2022 was because they did not want to sacrifice the quality of the game just to put it on a standalone headset, which I have so much respect for. And although it said anticipated in 2023, the game didn't come out until around February 2024 on the standalone, but it was that anticipated, people were waiting for it in the previous year. And if you played the game before, it is easy to see why. Up next we have got Zero Calibur VR. Now, Zero Calibur has a full-blown single-player mode as well as a co-op mode, and in contrast to most of the other shooters that I have mentioned so far in this video, it is more story-based. The story itself has a very interesting premise, which I won't go ahead and spoil right now because it is something that you should probably experience for yourself, but pair that with stunning graphics and really good gameplay and you've got yourself one great first-person shooter. Up next, I've gone with Strike Rush. Now this is a Quest game that is a 4v4 team-based VR shooter. Now this game comes with a range of amazing features as well as some really cool characters, which in quite a few VR games, especially team-based shooter games, you don't really get very memorable characters. But now this game kind of feels like a Valorant equivalent, except it also feels a bit more like Overwatch as well, but I never played Overwatch, so I can't really say for certain. But with its stunning gunplay and amazingly cartoonish graphics, this is one of those VR shooters that I think a lot of people can get into. Hyperdash is another VR multiplayer team shooter with a range of different game modes to try out. These game modes range from payload, domination, control point, team deathmatch, capture the flag, elimination, ball, and you are even able to remix these with custom mutators, similar to how you'd have a custom game in a game like Black Ops 2. This is a game that's got like super good movement mechanics as well. You can dash, you can sprint, you can even rail grind as if you're Sonic the Hedgehog from the 3D era or something. And it even has like in-game items you can buy as well. Like on the Quest store it even has a starter pack and a Sentinel pack. So, if you are a Quest user with some disposable income, maybe this is the game for you. And finally, my final pick is Population 1 for quite a few reasons. One, it is a super good game. It is one of my favourite games that I have ever tried on the Quest. Two, it is now completely free, despite the fact that I paid £15 for it. It actually became free 2 weeks after I purchased it as well, which I was fuming about, but I'm also happy about. And three, it is a very well refined battle royale shooter for you to try out. Population 1 is still one of the most popular games that you can actually get on the Quest headset, meaning that there are a variety of different players that you can encounter, some really good, some really terrible, unlike Contractors Showdown where everyone seems to be better than me. So there you have it, that is my list of the top 10 best shooter games to get on the Quest headset. Now a lot of these games are definitely going to be down to personal preference, so take your pick, you really can't go wrong. I would recommend starting off with the free games such as Population 1 so you can get a bit of a feel for the game itself. But if you're already experienced in VR shooters, then I would recommend just jumping into any of these that are on the list because you can't really go wrong. These games are amazing. But on the topic of trying out some free games, I will recommend a couple such as Meta Horizon Worlds and Roblox. Those two apps have got a plethora of free games for you to try out. Some of the best games on those applications are actually shooters, but there are also amazing apps to go on that aren't shooters, so you know, these are probably a great starting point for you to get used to shooting games. So that was my video on the top 10 shooter games. If you did enjoy the video, then I would highly recommend it if you were to check out some of my other videos. And if you like those videos, then it would mean a lot to me if you were to subscribe, but obviously that's your choice. Thank you so much for watching. I am about 9 seconds away from the 8-minute mark, and despite the fact that I don't get paid, this is very good practice. So yeah, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.